Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of From No Crypto to No Crypto. I'm your host, the Crypto Coach, Blockchain Wayne. Today we're joined by Jack from MirageGarden. Jack, man, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Look, we were just catching up right before this. Yeah, you've been on the podcast long ago, in a different world, different life. Back was probably 5 or 6 years ago. But yeah, thanks for joining us today, and love to catch up with you. So first and foremost, man, thanks for coming.
Yeah, it's great to be here. It's great to be here after quite some time. It's crazy how much time has been. 2016, 2017 is when a lot of us started taking crypto seriously. Right now, it's pretty much 10 years later.
Absolutely.
Around this time too.
Yeah.
In like June, May. So it's like perfect. It's like the anniversary of crypto for many of us in a way.
Right. Absolutely. And so, before we jump into MirageGarden and you tell us what you're building there, let's give the audience some background. Tell us about kind of your background, where you came from, and what you've done since you've jumped in this crazy crypto world about 9 years ago.
Right. So, hey, everyone. So before crypto, right, and what kind of got me into where I am in crypto, I used to run communities just for fun for all sorts of classic video games and whatnot. But these communities would be pretty large. We're talking like 5,000 active users. And that would owe to, me being like 15, having no money. I'd have to learn how to get a website, how to get a community, how to deal with people. And all those skills are very practical skills, and when you have a server and a community, you have to get it out there so people come back in. And that's gone into guerrilla marketing, community management, and all these things that have just turned into roles that I've had in crypto. And then when I got into crypto, like, I did buy finance. I helped oversee the first DeFi on Cardano. Not the first DEX. We were one of the first DEXs, but the first true decentralized finance applications, which was for anyone non-familiar, we took NFTs to Cardano. They were already there, but we took them and we said, now that you have an NFT, you can have a post hoc utility. You can stake it on our platform and give out whatever token you want, or we could designate the token for you because we had some projects working with us. And that would be the real benefit, was now you have a token or an NFT. It's just kind of, just a picture. It has no inherent utility. And now it would have utility post hoc after the fact. So anyone's token NFT, they could now have this extra function, adding on, market scarcity to it, because it'd be locked staking, adding on an ability to get the token for the project. So instead of just doing a token drop, they do it through us. And then we evolved it into a DEX. People can go trade on the DEX right now. It's Cardano only still, and we're moving into multi-chain because Cardano scaling has just been a little slow. So, but I'm not with them anymore, though. They're still doing great. I just went on to go do other stuff and try to move a little more into the AI sector and more into kind of the Launchpad sector, which is what we'll be talking about in just a bit.
Definitely, man. Yeah, I remember you guys pre-launch. You guys were at the Miami Crypto Experience right before launching everything.
Oh yeah, we gave out a bunch of cards, and they all had little tokens on them that people could redeem, and a lot of them were redeemed, which is great. I think we even came back when we were launched, went to the next Miami Crypto Experience. That was a great time. Yeah. That was a good one. We should have another downtown Miami, right at the Intercontinental, right? Was that the name of that one?
Yeah, the first one was at Intercontinental. The second one was at James Knight Center. Both locations.
And they're right next to each other too.
Yeah,
that's a good little area to have conventions. I wish we'd see more there again. There was a big moment where it was all there. Then they moved to Miami Beach, but that was a good little spot because you're right around everything.
Yeah, it's something we've toyed with. It was definitely a learning experience, and when you look at it, just the conference scene, it's when these larger conferences started putting on events, it kind of died down some. But there is something about smaller events, that aren't, it's small relative to these conferences that are bringing in 20, 30,000 people, but definitely a lot. I think a lot happened from there. A lot transpired from those events.
A lot more intimacy in the smaller events. Like I had a teaching one at one of yours in the past, just like a little quick teaching chat. I remember there were other people there was a lot of education. It was either the first or second one was focused on the education as like a mainstay. Yep. And that was great too. Yeah, that's something I want to see more of. I'd care to see more education for people wanting to get into it, and for the actual debanking, the real, crypto mindset stuff. Then I'd like to see, just some already rich guy talk about his opinions on the current, like, don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of Kevin O'Leary, actually. I like some of the stuff he's done. But at the same time, I don't get why I would go watch him talk at a crypto convention, Yeah. I'll watch him talk at a general business convention, totally. Probably has some great mindset there. But I've seen at crypto conventions lately, you'll see people who it's like, this person's great, But right now, we should be talking about data. We should be talking about use cases, education. Hell, a lot of people don't even realize NFTs aren't just a picture. People
Right.
think that they are like a picture, like that's
Yeah.
what they are. Most of them aren't even on the chain, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I get that all the time. And I think back to a podcast episode I did, I think it was like 2018 or 2019, just talking about the future potential of NFTs. And people still don't even realize that potential. Like at one point, right, the property you own is going to be a digital token on chain that is, in essence, an NFT. It's not going to
Yeah,
have a pretty picture tied to it or anything else, but it's going to be, non fungible token, a unique asset that you can hold on chain.
any contract, any contract could be on chain. A lot of now with like synthetic assets and stuff, like we were talking about earlier, like those, and many of the time they're either an NFT or a special type of fungible token to really mimic the asset one to one.
Hmm.
And it makes sense if you have something unique, you use an NFT. But as I was looking into the ERC protocols lately, which is kind of what when we get more into MirageGarden in a second, that's one of our side goals.
Yeah.
But I realized they have a very funny ERC called ERC 404. It lets you funge an NFT and then reconstitute it back into one whole single NFT. And it's like when you think about it, that's kind of against the whole concept.
All right.
It has some use cases though, don't get me wrong.
Okay.
But it's just I thought that was an interesting one. I learned about that recently. And I mean, I've heard about it, but I didn't know they actually put it in. That's ERC 404. It's been around for a while.
Nice, nice. I think we're going to see a lot of these concepts come to play soon, especially with
Yeah.
you talk about AI being prevalent in a lot of things, and on the development side, we're seeing people are able to bring products to market a lot easier, a lot faster, or with a lot less capital, right? Because you don't need these large development investments to be able to fund launching something.
Yeah.
Now it's almost like you got to get it launched and then you can get it funded.
It's almost like it goes that way, but it has one drawback, right? Which is AI only recently when I prompt specifically, like I have a huge pre-prompt like don't devil's advocate, don't yes man, don't nitpick, but still do try to get double check and everything like that. The reason I get to that though is because I've had AI write smart contracts, or I've seen people show smart contracts where it's like, oh, that's like a fatal flaw right there, grab that. And I think one thing that could really help with that is just having an AI, like an agentic, I guess you could say, if you really want to be fancy hype term with it, just an API for these AIs to use. It could be X402, it could be whatever, for them to
Yeah,
plug into and have already good contracts so that, even better, you use the AI, go, I want to launch this token. You can actually just launch it. You don't have to give yourselves the worst thing ever, which is a V2 token migration down the time. Like you don't have to tell your whole community, hey, time to go to V2, time to do this whole process. And then they'll have those few people who, even though you give them like a whole year,
yeah,
they'll miss it. And it's always a whole headache. It messes with the liquidity. It messes with everything. And nowadays, it's like we were just talking about the ERC 404. What's cool with AI is it thinks outside the box some ways. And there's a lot of ERCs that people don't even use with NFTs. For example, right now, I think it's ERC 6591 or something like that. It's hard to remember all of them, but there's one that allows NFTs to have their own micro wallet inside of them.
hmm,
So you could have a balance inside of it. You could have like a designated mini balance. The only problem with that is like the way that it causes a new problem is let's say I give you a gift card,
yeah,
has $25 on it. You're never spending all $25. You're going to end up with like a dollar or something. You're going to end up with like change. So that's kind of the issue there. You end up with a lot of micro wallets with like small amounts.
yeah,
But with all that and how that, all these features and functions, you hear the NFT, right? You see the NFT, and it's typical. And I think now with AI, it lets anyone just pick up a keyboard and do whatever they want.
right,
It's going to give people the ability to more so go, I want to make a token that not everyone has. I want to make an NFT with reflections. Totally possible, by the way. I want to make an NFT that's fungible, like the 404, and then you reconstitute it into like investments, kind of, and then it goes back into the main to show that I've gotten out of them. Or you could even use it for debt with what we're about to get into with the liquid object asset. So there's just all these new ways for new token types. I feel like a big thing with crypto is we have smart contracts. Tokens are just a smart contract for the most part.
yeah,
We have smart money, but we kind of put ourselves into a rut of what we should be doing with this smart money. It's like, oh, hey, you got the ERC 20? Okay. ERC 721? Great. It's like, what are you guys doing with them? They all have ERC 2981, I believe is the one. That's the royalties, right? They all have that one baked in.
yeah,
Everyone does that. That's reflections. That's what SafeMoon did. That made them so big. They did that on the token standard. They do that on the NFT standard for artist royalties, right? And that became a whole thing too. While they kind of had a rocky history since then, they
yeah.
started a whole concept
Right.
And if only, it's funny, if only they just kept with that concept and didn't try to make an exchange, a whole new token and all that, they could have still been like kicking if they
Right.
just kept it basic. But they spawned a whole thing. And it just goes to show people that, why was that a whole new thing? It was just a new token type. It was just a new, already compatible with all this thing. The programming was sitting there just waiting for someone to type it in. And they typed it in, and then the token, you go use it on this DApp. It looks for that line of code. It goes, oh, okay, this token can do that. Great. And then other DApps go, oh, that's fascinating. I'm going to add that functionality into my DApp. And then you have a new momentum, a new idea circulating around, and it can get really big. With how people go and speculation, it tends to get a little, simplified and silly, like how we were saying with NFTs, just kind of being boiled down to just pictures.
Yeah.
But the concept itself
Right.
is fantastic. For like NFTs might just be boiled down to pictures, but infrastructure wise, they're still Ticketmaster uses them. We were talking about that earlier. They Ubisoft tried to use them for a bit. Gaming, that's a little hard to get into, I'm gonna be honest, but there's ways to have these things just feel like, hey, here's your unique collectible, here's your synthetic object, and here's how it's tracked on the blockchain.
Yeah, absolutely. Still, I tell people all the time, I said they're not dead. The initial version of people being able to launch like a 10,000 NFT collection of rocks, pictures of rocks. Those days are over, right? Remember those?
Yeah, and
Selling
those
for
were
ridiculous.
gambling too. People didn't really talk about that. How the whole time it was like, man, I hope I get the good rock with like the hat
Yeah,
that's worth like $5,000. If you don't get that, you're just kind of like, well,
yeah. It's one of those things. I said, these NFT platforms have to evolve, and some of them are going away. Some of them are evolving because all they track is floor price, which is the lowest price something will sell, and trading
yeah,
volume, and that's only for speculators. It's not for your collectors. There's got to be
yeah,
some inherent rarity or something. I mean, look at the resurgence of Pokemon cards lately, right? Imagine having that aspect on chain to where you can
yeah,
trade those unique collectibles
and
that
plug
have
it
some
in
sort of
too.
demand.
Like OpenSea, when you're on an OpenSea and you're on a collections page, you don't see like, oh, hey, here's the DApp, by the way. Here's a link. Go use this
Yeah,
thing you just bought. Instead, like, the market, they're kind of pushing in the direction of, oh, you bought a picture, now sell it.
yeah,
Oh, you bought this, now sell it. That's not like, oh, you bought this thing, now
yeah.
go use it.
Use it. Yep.
Go change its metadata and then maybe sell it. It could be really fun for RPGs. It needs to be done really correctly, because imagine if you incentivize gold farming in World of Warcraft, you ruin World of Warcraft.
Right.
So it's like, you need to do it in a really smart way that can't be used for money, like can't be sold almost, and it's just pure fun. But it could be cool to be like, oh, I have a sword that has like this many levels on it from doing this, and I'll give it to you, and you give me this thing, like you give me a backpack that has X on it. That could be really great.
Right.
But
Yeah.
you could even, it's like one thing that I joke around with you, I joke around with classic crypto people. This is a classic one, which is in the future we might even have this. We'll have like an MMO. You just won't know it's an NFT.
Right.
It'll be on the back end. It might say in the about section like powered by Bitcoin or
Yeah.
Ethereum, but
Or it's
maybe.
yeah, yeah. One of the things I always said. I mean, imagine a new game comes out and you've got this one game that's maybe like a shooter game, and then this other game is more of like a quest. But this particular NFT that you hold in your wallet, that is like a gun in one game, the new game can, even with or without permission of that other entity, say, hey, if you connect your wallet and you have this, it equates to this rare sword in this game. Adds value,
Yeah,
adding value through utility and not anything else. You said the keyword early, use, right? You can use it. And that's the thing with
yeah,
most of the ones that came out that we saw, you couldn't really use them. You were just speculating, hoping that your mutant ape would be worth something, something more
yeah.
than what you bought it for.
Oh yeah, exactly right. And I mean, that's a good way for us to segue into the thing,
Definitely.
the
Yeah.
the, the topic at hand, because what we're doing is a new token type, but that's just part of our product. The whole main point is what we were just talking about, like with, it's going to have agentic plugins. It's going to have X402 plugins so that people can just tell an AI, hey, I want I want a token here, and then just got an ICO on a trusted launchpad, a marketplace, and all that too. So it's a hub, but the main focus of the hub is this new token type, a type that I saw recently gaining some hype. Now let me just get up something really quick because I want to just have them all ready. But most recently I
Yeah.
saw UPEG, which was, it's basically like a new kind of object. I like to call these the inverse of NFTs. So what UPEG did was they have this object, right? Every one token you hold, token, ERC20
Yeah.
gives you one of these UPEGs. It's a special kind of object, right? And hold on, I can see my little bit of lag. There we go. It's a special type of object. And the way it works is as long as you hold that token, you keep the object. And you can trade the object. The only problem is, or the only thing is, the recipient needs that one token as well. So it's almost like an inherent token gated idea. And the object is not minted from you or I just clicking mint. It mints inherently and gets its randomness and all that, if you're doing layers and randomness, through the chain. So for this, it's done through Unipeg, Uniswap v4. When I trade and get a Unipeg from the Uniswap v4 hook, I get the object as well. It generates the randomness. So I see this, I'm like, okay, cool. This person they're kind of just doing NFTs in a way. You get one token, gives one image. The token's still kind of liquid, but there's a few flaws. If I send you the token, what happens to my image? It vanishes, essentially. Or it kind of goes unbound. It's not really fully tracked on the chain. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, what if instead of one token makes one image, we make it any amount of tokens? You make it every 10 bound to one. And instead of making it so if I just send you the 10 tokens and the image or the object is lost, what if it changes states to an inactive state, inherently tracked in its own ledger? So these tokens have their own micro ledger inside of them. And the way it works then is you don't even need Uniswap v4 hooks. You could make a token. So here's like a great example of how this would all work. If you were a DF developer making, let's say, a governance type community, right? But you also have it gamified. Yeah. And you go, I want everyone who holds 10,000 of my token or more to get a special little object. It could be a certificate of authenticity. On our Launchpad, we figured out ways to have music with randomness in it. So it's like I could send you a song and a part of it's different. And then that person gets a different part as well. Markdown, GIFs and animated PNGs, all that fun stuff too. And then only if people have 10,000 tokens could they trade it amongst each other. And if someone goes to, let's say, they sell some tokens, it goes dormant in their wallet, and they can no longer buy new ones as well. Now, at first, this is fun. This is like great little, it's like images with Rarity. You can have these. You can trade them around your community with inherent token gating. But the real part it gets more fun is the tracking of the state of the object. Let's say I give you an object, right? And this object is your collateral in a lending protocol. And as you use it, you're sending the tokens back into the protocol or somewhere else. And this causes you to go below the threshold that keeps that object active. All right. That's now a way for me to statefully track your wallet and go, okay, Wayne has now given me back all the tokens. The object is now active. He can now burn it or send it, and that shows that he's repaid his debt. And there's a few other ways to have a stateful object tracked in the wallet. That's the whole point of this, really, is like the original UPEG is just an idea of, okay, here's an object in your wallet tracked to a token. But it's bound to that token. It's what we call a bound object asset now, as we're trying to make this a more open standard. Why? Why not make it fully liquid? Have someone have tokens. They can trade the tokens, do whatever they want with them, but then they need to reconstitute that amount to get the object back. It's almost like ERC 404 with the whole funging NFTs and then bringing them back. But this isn't an NFT. It's token first. Yeah. So it's an interesting inverse of NFTs. So it's like you need the token to do all this stuff first. You can't just trade it without holding the token. And beyond that, it goes into way more than just, pictures. Pictures just the object. You can make the object whatever you want. And one thing that we're trying to force, just a little bit of an aside, is, and we figured out sharding for this as well, 100% on chain. No IPFS, none of that. But there's nothing stopping someone from just putting an IPFS link in the metadata section. But obviously, we wouldn't really want that. Yeah. But yeah, so don't get me wrong. It's definitely a little confusing to explain to people because it's the inverse of an NFT, right? Yeah. You hear people like an NFT is this one type of object. And it's like, well, now you have 10,000 tokens. It could be any 10,000 tokens from that token type. And that gives you this one object. You can trade the tokens, do whatever the hell you want with them, and you'll still have the object. And then you could trade the object itself. And even if you think of it from an NFT perspective, a lot of communities have layer 2 token gating and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So for the token gating part, for that whole part, this is inherently bound into it. It's not even really meant for token gating, but that's just one of the inherent use cases of it.
True. So if I'm hearing you right, so say I've got to have a minimum of 10,000 tokens to have the object show up in my wallet, right? I send you 5,000. I would have to acquire back up to that amount for the object to be active again. right?
Yeah, it would
And
just be
then
dormant at the time. It would
just like
still
we were
be
talking
tracked
about
in your wallet.
just like we were talking about before, those objects can be anything, but it's really going to boil down to how that object can be used, right?
Yeah.
The utility of it.
So it could be, let's talk about the game aspect of it, like with a sword, right? Let's say you have the token not even be a marketable token, like you don't put liquidity pools up for it. You just have the token track in-game currency that you don't want to go back to US dollars, for whatever reason you want. You could also have things where it's like in-game you've reached this amount, now you have this unlocked in your wallet.
Hmm.
And what's nice too is the tracking of the state comes from the wallet and the token. It's much harder to try to circumvent this and try to do sneaky things that people can do with NFTs and whatnot, like by trading them around and whatnot. It's harder to do this itself. And the stateful tracking of the object is nice too, because it's almost like you could tell, hey, this guy joined my community, wanted to come to my events, so he bought like the 200 tokens for that I set it for this one.
Yeah.
And then over the years, he just left. He didn't give a shit. And then a few years later, he rebuys all the tokens and goes, oh, hey, look at me. I've been here forever. We could go, it's shown in the object itself when it was active, when it was less active. And these are emitted on the blockchain for use of all kinds of DApps and whatnot.
Okay.
So devs can really think outside the box with it too. It doesn't stop them from doing that.
Gotcha. So one of the things I'm thinking, think about the prior, rise and fall of the last NFT bubble where NFTs were just anything. I think a lot of people or a lot of projects that were launching NFTs were faking the floor price and the trading volume because they were just trading it amongst each other or multiple wallets just to show trading volume and floor price that was just fake because
Yeah.
there was no requirement to hold anything else. So this could kind of discourage a lot of that wash trading that people were just doing.
Yeah, it's almost like a more community focused type of object. And it is fungible. It's not non-fungible at all. Like if you have the tokens, you can do whatever you want with them. And we're calling it the liquid object asset. Now that's not what, like, our own one, we just call a B peg, a base peg, the uni peg, the fish peg, the R peg. There's tons of these other people popping up with these pegs.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was insane that people are making this brand new token type. It's a really neat token type. It's community first. It's has like these other applications into debt and whatnot. When I'm talking with finance people, they're like, oh, this has potential. But they're not making a Launchpad or anything with which to launch these tokens. Where's the crypto? Crypto is all about sharing and all about developing new things. So I'm saying, why don't we just put this together, make a Launchpad for these new tokens, and while we're at it, make it so people can launch NFTs with all the protocols. Like just a checkbox. Oh, I want ERC 404. I want ERC this. Make it so they can launch an ERC token with governance, with everything. So you got the new token type and just expanded token types. Now, if you go on pump.fun or Pink Sale right now, you can't launch a token with a lot of features that you might need. Like governance. A lot of projects need governance inherently. They don't have inherent governance functions. They don't have diminishing, and they don't have options with it too. Diminishing returns, all this, all that. And it goes back into the LOAs and BOAs. You can have governance determined by this object for diminishing returns. I could see, okay, this person has way too much. I don't want to give them too much of a vote. You can also see how dedicated they've been with it. You can reward them into a token with another way. The mint of this token doesn't have to happen the second you get it either. That's kind of the whole DApp plugin that I was talking about earlier, the hook plugin. Okay. So you can make it so, okay, you got rewarded this for doing XYZ, fully statefully tracked on the blockchain. No L2 is tracking it. It almost could track itself. And you just program that into the token itself. It's one of those things where a lot of the time nowadays you'll see people doing L2 solutions to this, which also enables the company to take all your money and run. Why not put this in the token? We're here, we're in crypto. Everything we were talking about earlier kind of comes into this in a way where it's like there's all these things where you have an idea gets boiled down, and then you go to L2. Why not get back into the crypto mindset of just putting these things in the tokens and in the blockchains themselves? The main idea for Unipeg and all these other things is just, oh, you buy one, you get the token, new token type, Uniswap v4 hype. But I'm seeing this as more of, this could become an open standard that people can build upon. There's unknown unknowns that I haven't even thought of right now. There's people who might look at this idea that I'm saying right now and go, oh, I want to put a custom function in this contract and do something cool with it. And we allow that because that's kind of the whole point. Like the fees are really low, everything's really low, it's flat, it's not percent based. We have an ICO function because the thing is like, I'm not rich. I can't just give people a liquidity pool like those other launchpads do, but we could totally give them the ability to say, hey, go to this website, connect your wallet, and buy the token. for all token types. Why not give people these abilities? And that's really where it comes to with why we made the LOAs and the BOAs, which we're calling SO tokens, synthetic object tokens. Not to be confused with synthetic assets. They're still synthetic. These are synthetic objects built upon a ledger in the token, but these have so much potential over just you get one object from one thing only on a Uniswap v4 hook. You could make it all sorts of interesting applications. That one of my favorite ones was the liens and whatnot, liens and other forms of debt accounting and whatnot with collateral. I think that's where it gets more fun. But then even just you could have something like a ticket or an NFT, like a classical NFT. That's the function we're starting with. It makes sense. You generate an image, you get rarity, and then X holders of your token can share it among themselves. Kind of makes you a little micro economy, so it has that little bet for it, which is nice. But I'm thinking more like, what if you're an artist and you want to do an album release, but not just have it turn into a bunch of people, one-upping and selling it? These still support royalties too. They have full support for royalties. So if you are that artist, the objects will give you royalties every time they resell. And if you want, you can even have it. You can have setups where you purposefully, going back into the liens and whatnot, put the token into an inactive state and try to recover those tokens back into making it an active object again. And then, transferring it, burning it, whatever.
Cool. So you talked about there's other standards out there. You kind of explained how you're different from UPEG. What else makes so this is all under the MirageGarden umbrella, right? So how do you guys I guess differentiate from what else is being built out there besides the Unipeg examples you gave?
I'm trying to find a different note I had that was perfect for this. Because basically what we're really trying to do is just give the power back to the people. And also in a way that people who don't have education in crypto can still do it. That's kind of an issue right now. It's going back to what I said with AI. People will have an AI launch them a token, but they won't really know to go, oh, that token has a fatal flaw in it. And there are already pre-existing token generation tools and even softwares that kind of give you a good contract to work with, which is great. I think one's called Open Zeppelin. I think that's the name.
Yeah.
And those are great products. But still, they're just not. Why not put this all into one little suite that people can use and plug into their own AI and everything else? Imagine a Launchpad that's actually for proper projects, not just meme coins and speculation. Simultaneously, though, also for meme coins and speculation, because why not? But the real thing here is it's just new token types, and it's all about power to the people. I'm actually kind of surprised that other Launchpads don't just let you do whatever you want. They let you launch a reflections token. I've seen that functionality, but they haven't let you launch an intricate type of token. They don't have a field for me to just put in custom functions, which is silly. I should be able to do that. Just put a warning on the page. This person put in custom. It's not that big of a deal. But instead, they're hyper focusing on just like, oh, meme coins. Pump.fum, which I'm a fan of. I think it's a fun little website. They could have done some really cool things with streaming, but instead they made L2 streaming. It's just like OBS. Yeah. It's nothing actually on chain. There's a lot more on chain promises that we can do right now. And that's one thing that really separates us from others is that if you put an image or a song or anything through MirageGarden, even onto just an NFT, even our regular NFTs work this way, it's going to be 100% on chain. No size limits coming soon. We're still working on the sharding. The only problem with sharding is, and to just be completely transparent with people, they have to go to MirageGarden to reconstitute the code from the chain. So just like with the SO tokens, the LOA and the BOA, which are what Unipeg and all that is, we're going to make that 100% open. You want to show the sharding object back together in its full constitution of data and then show the full song on your website, copy and paste the code. That's really the whole goal for this, is to be more of a hub around these new tokens, new token types. As we grow, one of my goals with the community is not just a generic like hype community, but really a community of devs trying to make even newer token types, trying to push the film further. And then, so we have the Unipeg and all these other ones, we're going to make that a proper EIC proposal and then turn it into an ERC implementation. Because if we could get like an EIP going, like a proper proposal for this, I don't see why it shouldn't be a proper setup as a standardization, which should even be beyond us then too. And that's kind of the goal with all this. So I see this awesome new token type, no ability to launch it. Everyone's launching their own, which makes them they're not incompatible with each other. And MirageGarden is not just Launchpad, it's a market. People can trade their UPEGs, their fish pegs, all those on base, but people can trade all that right now. It has functions for that. And I spent the time making this post hoc, after the fact function because they're all just someone writing their own contract.
Mm.
So if only we could have a standardization, it'll make people like myself and other markets have a much easier time. Oh, this guy made a peg. Let's throw it in. This guy made, because you hear them as pegs, but you hear them as other things now too. That's why I'm just calling them LOAs. Let's bring it in. Let's bring it in. Rather, if it's just a standardization, it just shows up on the marketplace already. It's like a
Yeah.
blockchain scan. It's like a scanner. Right
Right.
now, if someone finds any contract address for these tokens on these new token types, they can put it into MirageGarden and it shows just like base scan would, but it tells you about the token. It tells you about the like how the mint went, which I think is very nice. It tells you how much the dev made from the mint. We have a lot of transparency, and that's, I guess you could say, the main thing that we're really doing differently is just putting people's power to make their own choices at the forefront, which I think, like that's what crypto's all about. Why is that not? Why am I the one doing
Yeah.
this idea in a way? Sometimes, like it's kind of a straightforward idea.
Yeah. You said something earlier that kind of rang true when people think about the true ethos of crypto and blockchain, and the whole point is to escape these walled gardens like centralized tech companies have.
Yeah,
But what a lot of people are building is these walled gardens on chain or walled gardens based on the way they build the standards, because it's still in that mindset of, oh, I got to get mine instead of what can we build that would be better for the community. So that's at least what I took out of what you were saying earlier, and kind of some of what we're seeing happen with crypto over the years in terms of people are building these walled gardens on chain when the whole point was to escape those walled gardens of these
yeah.
centralized tech companies.
It has a funny irony to it where a lot of these people do this stuff for greed. But I don't think they realize that simply by lifting each other up and working together, everyone becomes much more prosperous. Everyone
Right.
does.
Absolutely.
So it's like the greed is blinding these people into making the money that they're the ones trying to make because of their greed. And it's like if you really want to get what made crypto so big, the community, the speculation on what it could become
Yeah.
and what it has become, and what's killing off crypto right now, the fact that we have people celebrating an ETF and whatnot. And now you look at the how much Bitcoin is controlled by people. It's all going into corporations and private equity and hedge funds and whatnot. And it's like kind of, the whole point of this was to get away from that kind of control. And now we're seeing that kind of control again. So, hopefully, if I could have like a wish for this, it would just be that it starts reverberations and gets others to start making more wholesome projects. We're already talking with Base Chain about this. Base Chain, because it's a new micro ecosystem, it's a new token
Right.
type,
Yeah.
and it's not the only one. Is my whole idea here too. LOAs are a fantastic concept. They're so tokens, synthetic object tokens, really cool concept. I love the whole idea where the tokens maintain full liquidity. That's our thing. The original Unipegs, they're not fully liquid. You sell the tokens, the object just kind of vanishes.
Yeah.
Which me, oh yeah, also there's a big bug with that, by the way. I might as well say this now. Hopefully we force it to get fixed by popularizing the bug. If you want to re-roll any of these BOAs, bound object assets, that's what we're calling them because they're bound to the tokens. They're not liquid.
Yeah.
Which is kind of defeating their own purpose, but whatever. Let's say you got one and you don't like your roll. You just let's say it's a 10 token interval. No one's done other intervals besides us yet, which I think is also like there's nothing stopping you. It's just a
Right.
value you set. But let's say you make the token interval 10, or even right now it's 1. One token doesn't really mean anything. Like that's not an actual value. It's not an NFT. So I just sell 0.1 of that token to make it 0.9, right? And then I buy that back 5 seconds later, or I just send it to a different wallet, send it back to me. I can do that to mint as many as I want. I can
Ah.
farm the mints. I can mint the whole supply myself. Oh, I don't like my rarity. Reroll until I get a good rarity. So there's a
Interesting.
few inherent flaws in the BOA system, which is why we made the LOA system. And the reason we're using these words is because I don't want to call them peg. They're not pegged to anything.
Yeah.
And it's also just that's their name. That's Unipeg's name. I have their websites up right here because there's a few more that I forget. Like there's hype ones, like CryptoPunks. They made Punk Peg, I'm pretty sure,
Yeah.
and it's cool. I like the new ideas, although they're kind of going about it in the exact way, which became the Bored Ape guy. Like all that stuff that we were talking about kind of isn't the best. Still, though, it's a new token type. Popularizing that is cool. It'll get devs interested. However, same problem with earlier. These people are all making their own little hype ones. There's no interoperability between them. If you want to make a marketplace for this, good luck as you make a ton of different contracts to hold
Right.
escrow for
Right.
these other contracts. It's just going to be a pain. And it's
Yeah.
going to cause a lot of chances for something to go wrong.
Right.
So you just make an open public standard, make it so anyone can mint them. And yeah, I take 0.00001 ETH fee. Like that's fine. I need like 10 people to mint for me to get one, 10,000 people to mint, and then I get one Ethereum. Like I feel like that's pretty fair. And it's not like I see fees that are like high, like 5% flat. It goes back into the greed thing. You don't need that. These companies, they're running on the blockchain. They don't have a database. They have almost no back end cost. So it makes you wonder, like, why are they doing that? So there you go. You just now it's like anyone can launch one of these new token types, and they can mess around with it. If anyone's watching this and they're like, wow, I want to launch one, just go on testnet first. It's a brand new token type. I encourage you to please go on testnet, do all your testing there first. And if you find anything weird, let us know. And if you're a dev who's watching this and you're curious about these new token types and you're curious about the concept of them, get in touch as we start to build out our community about building even newer token types and newer applications to the new LOA token type. So when you see pegs and all these other names, just think LOA. It's the public standard. It's what we're going to start talking with Base officially about and getting all this going. It's not our name. Our first LOAs were called BPEGs. I can't claim that they were like amazing and anything special. They were actually how we figured out a lot of these issues where we were like, oh wait, we're using the exact same code they are, but I can't send it to you. It just like if I try to send it to people, sometimes it tries to, like if I try to send you the token, it would sometimes try to send the object over, and we had to figure that out too. So now they're all just options. If I send you the token, you want to burn it, you click the checkbox. You want to do this, click the checkbox. You want. Here's a fun little feature. Let's say you don't want everyone who has 10,000 tokens to get one. You just want like 2 in existence, and they can be traded among anyone who has 10,000 tokens.
Gotcha.
That's also a feature, totally. It doesn't have to be. That's another problem I saw with the original one. They made it 1-to-1. So one token gets you one object, and then token supply deemed object supply. Don't have to do that at all. A lot of this stuff is really just like, you don't have to do that. It's the funny thing about programming and AI nowadays and whatnot is like you could tell who doesn't really have like the true engineer mentality because they look at something and they don't realize that's just a number. That's just x equals 1. Set it to x equals 10, and you now have every 10 intervals for a token. It's really, and that's the whole point of crypto. You see the code, you pick it up, you change the code, you show others, and they go, wow, that's cool. It's not like you just do the same thing. This is a wholly new token type, and I think that's really nice. And so that's why I made MirageGarden and started focusing on a way for people to mint it, because it's like this could be something huge, and even if it's not something huge, it could turn into something big. It opens a lot more questions, and it's a token first way of pulling off a lot of what we've been doing on L2s and with different types of tokens lately. An NFT is great because it's non-fungible. But what if you need it to be fungible? ERC-404 is kind of a pain in the ass. Oops, I didn't get all 100 of my bits back together. Now I can't reconstitute my NFT. Now I can grab someone else's bit and go, okay, now I'm back in the clear. I'm in the black. I'm out of the red.
Sure.
And I really just want people to think of too the applications to this that aren't just pictures with Rarity. Right. And by the way, one thing as well, we also have in order function. That's something I thought was silly too. What if I don't want it to be Rarity? What if I want you to get number 1 and I want me to get number 2 and that person to get number 3? So many features and functions that I think are just kind of like, why not give people the ability to hit a checkbox and go in order? Oh no, Rarity. I want this to have sub rarity, like only a certain part is rare and that part's in order. All these features and functions and modularities and just the true ability to control your token, it's been right in front of people's eyes the whole time. And I've been kind of, I was working on Wi-Fi, I was working on this other stuff. I kind of am surprised no one's done this yet. It's almost a project that I'm doing because it's like, come on, people, like, yeah, like just to do it. It's not even the hardest thing to do. That's the best part.
Absolutely. All right, Jack. So as we wrap up on the MirageGarden, for those that are listening, they want to learn more about what you're doing, learn more about the standard. Where can they go to find out more and follow you guys?
So this is fantastic, by the way. I did not know this was until when we started MirageGarden. I didn't know this was a thing. We go to mirage.garden. .garden is the TLD. Cisco hated us. I had to send them all these emails like, hey, can you please remove us from your super phishing addresses list? Because .garden is such a new TLD.
Yeah.
A lot of people using it are scammers and whatnot. So they're like, okay, yeah, sure. We didn't realize, like, yeah, it's a new TLD. Isn't that funny? It's like, yeah. We got auto flagged on like half of their. I had to contact all these companies. You'd go to the website, nothing would show up. But yeah, you go to mirage.garden. We have full documentation, and it's only getting expanded. And then, I'll also. This is one of my main projects on Base right now. It's a fun little Launchpad, but I'm also around. You and I are talking. I'm also doing a few other projects that hopefully I'll be on here again soon to touch on. They're in different realms, so they never really lap over each other, and they're all really about like educating and or just like fun, wholesome, giving power back to the people because you can do that, and you can even like I have a small fee. I get a little. It's not like I'm doing this for completely free. Everyone can be happy. It's really not hard to make a win-win in this day and age. That's why I don't get why more people aren't doing it.
Yeah, definitely. Is
Right?
that saying the rising tide raises all ships? Like
Yeah.
yeah.
And everyone knows the saying too. It's like there's a lot of sayings that go with like quid pro quo and communal
Right.
sharing and whatnot that are still like, and people go, oh, that's this, that's that. No, like
Yeah.
there's many healthy ways to share and many types of setups
Right.
that work toward everyone getting more prosperity. You just got to make sure it's properly everyone like working together, and that crypto really enables that too. Fully transparent. If I say, oh, this guy's taking it all for himself, move to a more wholesome project.
Yep. Definitely. All right, Jack. So as we start to wrap up, man, you've given a lot of information. I've got the website down below in the comments so people can click on that, check it out. But any final words before we wrap up?
I guess my main final word is less about my specific project, but more just about everything in general, which is this project is something I think is really neat because it's solving a problem that people kind of created. They made this whole new token type, but they didn't make it public and accessible and open standard. This is just one thing. It's my one thing, and I think it's awesome right now to help expand on this thing that others have started. But there's going to be things that we haven't thought of right now. Unknown unknowns. I just wish people would think more about that. Wholly new token types. Crypto is only becoming kind of irrelevant because we're letting it in a way. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
just people should start getting more into how it was in 2017 when it was like everything's a little more new. Everything still is kind of more new. The tech in crypto lets you do whatever you want. It's really powerful like that and plugs into so many different things because it's just a ledger. It's just a really fancy type of ledger that has super backups. And that's the one message I really want to get out to everyone is just if you see what I'm doing and you think it's neat, you can join in on us as 100%, but I also want you to keep your mind open to completely new concepts to help bring more back to crypto. It doesn't even have to be fully financial. Crypto's back end blockchain technology as a permanent ledger goes into so many things. And that's really what I just wish people would think of more the potential.
Absolutely. Definitely. All right, Jack. Well, thanks again for joining us today. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Yeah,
So
thanks
we'll
for
leave it
having
at
me.
that. Great stuff. Make sure to check out MirageGarden, what they're building, and see what else you can come up with. So thanks again for joining us. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Take care, everyone.